The Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, Maryland collapsed after it was struck by a ship. How did this happen? Why did this happen? Let's talk about it. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the Key Bridge, also known as the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, Maryland, collapsing after it was struck by a container ship. Now, this happened early this morning, which is Tuesday, March 26, 2024. And at the time of the actual collapse, there were drivers on the bridge. Luckily, it was pretty early in the morning, before sunrise, before rush hour. So there was light traffic, but there was traffic. And as of right now, there are search and rescue teams in the water trying to find survivors. If anyone was in their vehicle, are they trapped inside? Are they outside? Are they in the water trying to swim, floating? What's going on? And as far as the ship itself, the dolly, all of the crew are accounted for. I think there were about 26 people. They've all been accounted for. Now, I don't know if they were injured, and if they are injured, the extent of their injuries, but all of the crew have been accounted for. However, the drivers of vehicles on the actual Key Bridge, that is still kind of a thing we really don't know about. Now, before I go too further into it, let's check out a video of the crash and what was happening on the bridge right before the crash. Now, you can see the dolly right here on the left-hand side of the screen. Let's give a little bit of background, a little bit of backstory. So there's a port right there in Dundalk, which is right outside of Baltimore, and the ship was fully loaded with containers like you would see on a regular cargo ship. Now, I don't know where the ship was headed. I presume it was going somewhere on the East Coast, maybe overseas. I don't really know, but it was fully loaded, and I was reading that these ships can weigh like 800,000 pounds, so really, really, really heavy ships. Now, you can see it is trying to go up under the bridge, and you see there's traffic, and then you see all the lights on the ship go out. Let's go back a little bit so you can see. You have lights on the ship. It's trying to go under the actual bridge because it's high enough for ships to travel under. There's no need for a draw because it's high up. And as it's approaching the bridge, you see the lights go out. Now all the power is out. And if the power on the ship is out, it can't maneuver. It can't really control where it's going. Now we got a problem. You see there's a pillar right here. It's headed right to it, and it can't really stop. They could drop anchor, things of this nature. But if you already were traveling at a certain speed, 6, 7, 8 knots, whatever it was, I'm no marine traffic expert, so don't quote me on that. But if you're traveling at a certain speed and all of a sudden you lose power and you have that much momentum, that much weight, 800,000 pounds, it's almost impossible to stop it. What you have is a slow moving missile. So it's continuing to move, and you see the traffic on top of the bridge. That's actual just passenger traffic. And again, it was early in the morning. Now the lights come back on, but you're also going to see black smoke billowing from, I guess that would be the engine. So clearly there's some kind of mechanical problem on board. And you see that it's trying to do something with the anchor, but it's just going to start twisting because of all the momentum and the power that's built up in it. And as it's continuing to twist, it eventually is going to collide with this pillar. And then you still see traffic on top of the bridge. And at a certain point, it's going to collide with the pillar. Move it over a little bit here. And then, boom, it crashes right into the actual pillar. And then the bridge just comes tumbling down. The bridge comes tumbling down. Okay, now, some are going to say, well, look, ABL, we have an infrastructure problem. How did the bridge collapse so easily? Well, I don't think any bridge of this type, especially, is going to survive after being struck by an 800,000 pound shipping vessel. I don't think that's how these bridges are going to operate. All right. So that's that on that. Now, we have a news clip here. Well, before we get to the news clip, I want you guys to see the extent of the damage in the daytime, because obviously that was right when it happened. This is before sunrise. And now we can check out the extent of the damage afterward. You see how bad it is. You see where the bridge would connect with the expanse of the suspension, and you see where the actual shipping container is. You see how big it is. These are not small things. It's not a boat. It's not some kind of sea-doo or jet ski. These things are big. If it was a regular boat or something like that, it would have bounced off that pillar like it was nothing. But these big, heavy containers, shipping vessels, a bridge is no match for it. And you can see just how big it is. All right. And you can see the damage of the pillar right there at the front part. I don't know about the specific terms of a ship, but you can see how big it is. These ships are like the size of cities. They're very, very big. And it's kind of hard to really understand the scale of them until you see them in person. But you can see how big it is compared to the actual bridge. It makes the bridge look like it's nothing. Like it's, a sheet of paper just got folded up. So that's that. Now we can get to an actual news clip here. I won't play the entire thing because it's pretty long. It's like 13 or so minutes. But we're going to get to the majority of it, to the meat and potatoes. And if you want to see the full clip or anything else, I will link to everything in the description. If you're on IG, visit the link in the bio. Go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
A simply shocking scene in Baltimore. A large stretch of the Francis Scott Key Bridge up in Baltimore gone. Rescue operations underway right now to find people who went into the water in the collapse.
It happened around 1:30 this morning, and video posted to social media shows the moment that a container ship hit a bridge pier, causing the sections of roadway near that pier to drop into the Patapsco River at the mouth of the harbor.
This is a unthinkable tragedy.
It's just the mayor of Baltimore, really young guy.
We have to first and foremost pray for all of those who are impacted.
That was Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott speaking there. We are following huge breaking news on this Tuesday morning. It's the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore. This is where I-695 crosses.
So you see where the bridge is right there. Like Dundalk is right there where it says Key Bridge. Dundalk is right there. There's a port right there. And it was leaving the port and coming through the bridge, coming out to like Chesapeake Bay area. Let's zoom out a little bit. Okay. So you got Chesapeake Bay over, that's the Potomac. Chesapeake Bay right here. So it was coming out probably through this way.
Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore. This is where I-695 crosses the Patapsco River. It is not downtown, but spans a wider part of the harbor.
There are still so many questions to answer, but here's what city and state officials said just over an hour ago. There is no sign that this was a terrorist act. While there are no confirmed fatalities, first responders have hours of searching left to go. Shipping operations at the very busy port of Baltimore are suspended.
And it's going to be a problem for shipping. Aside from the human component, obviously, we got to find those who were on the bridge and make sure everybody's accounted for, make sure everybody's rescued. Aside from that obvious thing, there's also the business aspect of it, because you're talking about a very busy port, and all of the ships that are trying to get into the port and leave the port cannot. They are pretty much trapped. So if you're inside the port before this bridge area, you pretty much just are going to stay there because you can't exit. And if you are coming into the port, you might want to turn around, go somewhere else, because it's not going to happen.
Now we want to check in with our reporters. Our first crews arrived at the scene more than 4 hours ago.
Let's start with Jacqueline Quinn. Jacqueline is at the north side end of the bridge in Dundalk, Maryland, with the latest on what we know about this tragic collapse.
Yeah, so we have a lot of questions we're expecting to ask the governor this time of Maryland as he approaches here for a press conference any moment now. But at this point, just look at the scene. It is really jarring to see the site of this bridge. As you can see there, it just abruptly ends. And if you look to the right of that, that's the cargo ship. Some of the containers there on the side with the bridge.
You can see it. So the bridge is right here, upper left-hand corner. And that's where you'll be able to start to go across the expanse to go to the other side of the water, other side of the river, and it just stops right there. It just stops. So, I mean, this looks like it's pretty much intact. This part of it that's on the land, I suppose, looks like it's pretty stable. So I wonder what the rebuilding operation would look like. You know, you've seen some things in this country that take forever, years and years and years to rebuild. They have rebuilt a bridge in Florida in like 3 days. Now, obviously, that bridge is a little bit different than this one. You're talking about a high rise that is tall enough for ships to go under. So that's a little bit different than the bridge that was in Florida. But still, 3 days for the Florida bridge. How long will this bridge take?
Resting over towards the left-hand side, just in the water there. So this happened around 1:30. There have been multiple.
And you can see the other parts of the bridge right here that are pretty much just in the water. That's a crazy sight to see.
Agencies that have responded out here, including the Coast Guard. They've been pouring their efforts into this to help. With the people who may be trapped in the water. And if they were driving, they would have fallen about.
You see like a small Sea-Doo type boat right there on the right-hand side of the screen. Look at the size of that compared to the size of this ship. It's not even really, it's night and day. I've been on the beach in Virginia and seen the ship out. It looks like you can't even really just, it's like a city floating. It's crazy. But there's more. I will link to it in the box. But basically, we have search and rescue. They got to figure out a way to clean this actual crash up to have the traffic, the marine traffic, keep going. And yeah, this is a pretty rough situation. I don't think it's an infrastructure issue as I close. I don't think it's about a bad bridge or out of date. I think that it was an accident. You got this really, really big and heavy ship that collided with the bridge and caused it to collapse. And that's pretty much that on that. And I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your thoughts on the bridge collapse? Do you think it's because of faulty infrastructure? Do you think it was an accident? Do you think that there is some kind of foul play involved? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. I think it was just an accident. I mean, the ship had a mechanical problem, lost power, engine, start billowing black smoke. It's trying to drop anchor. It's twisting and turning. It hits the pillar, and then now the bridge collapses. I just hope that anyone who was on the bridge driving to wherever they were driving to is able to be found and nobody loses their life. And again, thank God this did not happen right during 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock rush hour. That would have been a much bigger tragedy than it could be right now. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.